Welcome back, everyone, for a special Sunday edition of the Word Traction Network Daily Podcast. This is SPVs, or Dune Buggies for pedophiles. Now, that's just kind of a hook that will allow you're going to hear a lot about SPVs, special purpose vehicles, in the ongoing saga of over-leveraged tech bros, if you're not familiar with the concept already. What it is, it's a legal device that allows, let's say, Mark Zuckerberg, because he's at the top of the food chain of using the SPVs. It allows him to take debt off of his balance sheet and park it somewhere, not not completely closed off from any scrutiny whatsoever, but certainly what it does, it obscures the facts from the common retail investor. Because these SPVs, if you think about a data center, uh, I mean, everybody knows about an LLC and using different structures to limit liability. This is something a little bit different. And when Marky Mark decides that the amount of scrutiny on data centers and the antipathy that the general public in America is displaying towards data centers generally, is that would it be better for Meta overall to keep these things sort of out of direct sight legally, financially, of investors, because there could be retaliation saying you are over leveraged to the point that if something tips the wrong way with one of these SPVs in one company, it could tip the balance across the entire sector. And when Elon, DJ Jazzy, Jeff Bezos, and many other tech bros are using the same device, taking the liability off of the balance sheet, uh, there could be substantial disruption to the economy. And like I said, you'll hear much more about it. It is an entirely legal structure, and more sophisticated investors look at the footnotes. You check the details, check the receipts, as they say, as the kids say these days. But many more less sophisticated retail investors don't dig down that deep, and it might overlook this fact. In the age of AI, can you determine this in a much more simple fashion than you could 25 years ago? Absolutely, absolutely. But it's sort of emblematic of the way that these guys operate. In such a, they're making a deal with hedge funds and with the data centers, and how can you track what percentage of that investment is the responsibility of Microsoft or Meta or whatever other company, and what percentage of that liability rests with the partner. Yeah, it's hard again for, you hire an accountant. Do you want to hire an accountant and attorney every day that you're day trading? Probably not. Risk for your tolerance for risk may be somewhat different than a larger entity on Wall Street. But if you want risky, you can go and hang with Don Jr. and Eric. Don's the smart one, supposedly. So you'll be seeing more from him, because after the midterm elections, I'm still predicting that there's a likelihood that he will be put forward as a potential successor to Don Sr. And I'm still, it would be more palatable for Trump himself, legacy wise, even though he knows that perhaps his son may not be up to the task. But it's the name, and it's a controllable asset. If JD Vance, gets, for instance, he is the number one, and he takes over as president in 28. I mean, perish the thought, but we have to entertain it nonetheless. And JD takes that entirely predictable turn further right even than Donald Trump, because it's a philosophical, all of the things, the fact that Tucker Carlson's son is in JD Vance's orbit, and a lot of the MAGA folks, when you hear things about AIPAC complaining about the amount of anti-Semitism in the world today, just imagine a JD Vance administration. How's that going to fly? Well, of course, knows some things, and this is, it's 28. The Israeli election, as you know, is in October of this year. And whoever wins, it will not, it may be a slight improvement on Bibi, but in a real world competency and behaving like humans to your Arab neighbors, I'm going to project that it ain't a big fucking difference, because they all have a pretty miserable track record, and they're still beholden to special interests in their country, just as we are here. APEC, of course, starring most prominently in Florida, in Michigan, in California, and elsewhere, starring, headlining, but often getting their teeth kicked in the process. Again, still hundreds of millions of dollars. APEC's going to win some, but then we get our shining examples of what it looks like to go in the other direction, like Mayor Mondani, like like Abdul, and yeah, again in Ms. Dixon down in Florida. So we have much to be thankful for. It's a Sunday, so I'll keep it short. Again, what do you need to know about SPVs? I mean, do a little. There's not a written attachment to this here broadcast, but it's a Googleable idea. I think as the individual tech bros start to get called out on the amount of debt that they're carrying on the books, and then Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, again Meta, may have as much as there may be as much as $1 trillion carried in these sorts of vehicles, cumulatively between all the tech bros. If you want to reference back and get a historical perspective, then you can, do something clever like Google SPV and the airline industry, right? Something we can, there's something about AI, of course, that is more complicated than nuts and bolts industry of our youth. But certainly the airline industry, where they used SPVs to keep the debt load of the asset, the plane, off the books of the company for various purposes, and of course, excuse me, burying the lead, the poster child of U.S. SPV abuse is Enron. Enron, everybody knows Enron. It was a great story. It was bad for a lot of investors. It was bad It was a bad look for the United States government and regulatory agencies more generally, and bad for Enron and its employees. But if you want to be, it's Sunday, you want to do a little bit of a deep dive, then do SPV, Sam Peter Victor, and Enron, and see what, and then you can get a perspective from 20 years ago, what the ills of loading assets off the balance sheet into these vehicles, and what additional liabilities that presents to people that might choose to invest in these publicly traded companies. And of course, the love for our tech bros. Uh, uh, I particularly like the story. I'm going to just lead into what'll probably be tomorrow's podcast, which is Donald Trump using your money again with through the bad offices of the DOJ to put pressure on states and municipalities that are saying no to data centers. Elon is Elon has his data center, which uses gas powered turbines. The turbines themselves are located in, it, excuse me, it's either data center turbines on the border, Tennessee, Mississippi. So those are two countries. Those are two good old American states that Trump can put a lot of pressure on. Right? They're essentially red states. Uh, Tennessee, Memphis, of course, is famous for for the return of Jim Crow laws and voting laws, which we'll touch on for the next until the 2030 Super Bowl, no doubt. But the citizens groups are saying, hey, in Mississippi, like, you didn't go through the proper channels to ensure that the pollution from your data centers won't adversely affect our population. Right? The governor and other elected representatives wanted to push it through because they're getting paid. And of course, there is there is an argument that data centers themselves deliver cash to cash strapped regions, counties, cities in parts of the country. That is it's, you can't argue that fact because there is money for schools and playgrounds and things like that they say in the ads. But at what price? At what cost? And this is one of those things. And so the Trump administration, when the local, uh, the advocacy group started making a lot of noise, they came over the top of the ropes in the Trump administration with the DOJ, said, well, this is key to our national defense because your friend and mine, Grok, who, strips down and makes sexually explicit images of teenagers just on their day off. I mean, that isn't their full time job, but they're very good at it. That Elon is saying, this is a key component of national defense, and Trump is parroting Elon's talking points, and the DOJ is taking the side of the government because because Trump is paid by the tech bros to do that, to deliver data centers, regardless of public. There are states with moratoriums. Kathy Hochul in New York, famously. And there are states that are doing 1-year moratoriums, 6-month moratoriums, or other. And that's good. That's good for citizens to unite and say, just wait a second. And of course, the Elons and the Trumps, because he's told to say this by his Elons and his Zuckerbergs, come over, and Larry Ellison, of course. Uh, he's on the Ellison, your friend and mine, TikTok, CBS, and other. Is if you have a top three of SPV Hall of Fame, it's probably Zuckerberg, Ellison, and I'll just throw Elon in. I don't know if he's number three, but he should be. So he's at least dishonorable mention. But these guys can call up the White House when people are picketing in, Rando City, Nebraska, saying, we don't want these in our neighborhood. Then Trump is sending your Department of Justice to fight against your fellow citizens to impose data centers on your neighbor's property, county, state, saying this is an inevitability. He's saying it's a national security issue. Thereby, I am empowered as president. I have extraordinary powers because these people are going to pay me off so much fucking money that I may not get it if I don't do this. So, Todd Blanche, I want you in Nebraska tomorrow, and you're going to say, I will sue your ass every day from now until 6 years from Tuesday if you don't allow the data center. Try, test me, right? Fight me. And that's going to be on repeat. And it's almost too bizarre, like so many things in the Trump world. It's almost too bizarre to believe, but you see evidence of it every day. And if you hadn't caught any of the story about Elon, Grok, XAI with the center and the gas-powered turbines on the border region between Tennessee and Mississippi, then give it a look because it's in my feed. Certainly, it's something that we'll be hearing over and over again. It doesn't give, yesterday's news on this issue does not. It talks about Trump stating it as a national security issue, but the litigation part of it, it's more threats. It's easier for them just to say, let this happen or else. And the or else can be you lose funding for schools. You lose, your box seats at the next White House MMA event. All of these things that Trump can control. How much he wants to do of this sort of bullshit before the midterms is unclear. But in a state like Mississippi, and essentially in Tennessee too, it don't matter because only mega candidates are likely to prevail there, except for in Memphis. But certainly, in Nashville and other much more ruby red parts of the South, MAGA is still bought in with Donald Trump at what is alarming, even if it's only 30%. It's staggering knowing what we know and seeing what has been done and watching the men and women get off of the U.S. plane in Port-au-Prince in Haiti to a life that they thought they had left behind. And it's essentially like dropping people, and we're doing this too, dropping people in the middle of South Sudan and having having mercenary forces greet you at the airport saying, welcome home, because many of these people that came back have been sending money to family members in Haiti, and now they will be seen as targets for extortion, murder, sexual violence as a weapon of war, which is a regular occurrence in Haiti. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And we're not doing anything on the ground to help that because it's a country populated entirely of Black and or brown people. So Trump is turned his back and walked away on these people. And these are the people that he victimized from Springfield all the way back to eating cats and dogs. These are many of those same people that are just wonderful, religious, family people, hardest working Haitians, hardest working. I lived in Miami for 25 plus years. The hardest working people you'll ever meet in your life, without a doubt. Super industrious, and they go into cities where the middle class has been stripped away, and factory jobs have been exported to various other places. And they go in and they essentially provide the services in an economy that even that even poor white trash don't want. And now we're just shipping them back to, if not to their death, and there will be some of that, but to tremendous hardship and starvation conditions in Haiti too. So, thank you. And that is SPV, Dune Buggy for a Pedophile, is just the uncomfortable visual that I'll leave you with. That you can think of every time you hear SPV in the news. You can say, that fucking guy on the podcast on Sunday put this image of Trump and Jeffrey riding a dune buggy down a beach in the Hamptons looking for a date as much younger men. But there's one thing for sure, the women were much, much younger, as they are, as it happens today. So thank you. And the sun kind of came out, so I may have to lift the camera as opposed to try to disengage, because there's glare and I probably can't see it. So I'm going to shelter, see if this will work. Thank you. And I should have said at the beginning, kindly restack first, subscribe second, share on another platform third, and say something nice or mean in the comments. And look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you very much.